Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're diving headfirst into something pretty profound in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3 specifically. We're unpacking karma yoga, the path of selfless action. Because Arjuna, he's facing this huge internal, well, external too, conflict. And he's really wrestling with this core question. If wisdom leads to peace, to detachment, why act? Why should he, or any of us really, engage in action? Especially something like, well, war. Last time we sort of touched on the soul being eternal and the power you get from detached action, acting without being hooked on the results. And that kind of sets the stage perfectly because now Krishna goes even deeper. How do we live in the world, act in it, but like purify that action?
Exactly. And that's really our mission for this deep dive, to get a handle on how selfless duty, this detached action, isn't just, one way. It's presented as a really powerful path. So we're moving past asking if we should act. The real question becomes how we should act. I think the theme that guides us here is pretty clear. Work without ego. Act without expecting rewards. That right there is the heart of karma yoga.
Okay, right. So let's start with Arjuna's confusion. It feels very relatable, actually. He's there on the battlefield, and he basically asks Krishna, if knowledge is better than action, why are you pushing me into this terrible war? It's a question we probably ask ourselves, maybe in different ways. If peace is the goal, why the stressful job? Why the difficult conversations? Why all the effort?
It's a very human question, isn't it? And Krishna's answer is, well, it's quite striking. He just says, action is unavoidable, period. The Gita is super clear on this. Shloka 3.5 says, no one can remain without doing action even for a moment. Everyone is driven to action by their nature. So nobody gets a pass. Not even the wisest person can just sit there and do nothing. Our nature itself pushes us to act. It's like the Gita's telling you, look, you're in the game. You can't just opt out. So boom, the focus shifts. It's not whether to act, but how and why.
Okay, that makes sense. Action is inevitable. It's just part of being alive. But then how do we know? How do we tell the difference between actions that, free us versus ones that just tangle us up even more? What's the key shift?
That's where Krishna brings in this really crucial distinction. He says, work done as a sacrifice for something higher, it doesn't bind you, but selfish work. Work done just for me, for what I get out of it. That definitely creates bondage. Think about maybe checking your phone constantly for likes or replies. That feeling of needing the validation, that's a kind of bondage. The Gita puts it directly in 3.9. Work done as a sacrifice for a higher purpose does not bind us, but selfish work creates bondage. It's about the offering, not the personal gain.
Right, so it's the intention, the why behind the action, not just the action itself. And this leads to that concept you mentioned, yajna. Often we think, oh, that's a ritual, maybe with fire and chanting. But how does Krishna make that idea bigger, applying it to, well, everything we do?
Yeah, that's what's so cool here. Krishna really expands yajna. It's not just a formal ceremony. Any selfless action, really, when you do it with the right mindset, without clinging to the results, it becomes a spiritual offering, a yajna. It's about aligning what you do with sort of the bigger picture, the cosmic flow. Shloka 3.10 suggests the Creator made us along with sacrifice, saying something like, through this, may you prosper and fulfill all desires in harmony with the universe. So doing selfless work is almost like repaying a debt to nature, society, the divine. It keeps things in balance. Like tending a community garden, you do it for the whole garden's health, not just your own little patch.
Huh. That idea of working for the whole, for balance, it feels like that naturally connects to leadership, right? If our actions ripple outwards, then the actions of people with influence must have even bigger ripples.
Oh, absolutely. The Gita really emphasizes this leadership by example. It says in 3.21, whatever a great person does, others follow. Whatever standard they set, the world follows. It's a pretty heavy reminder, actually. Your actions, especially if people look up to you, they don't just affect you, they set a standard. It's not just about talking the talk, it's the walk that really shapes things.
That's powerful, a quiet responsibility. So, okay, the ignorant act with attachment, looking for what's in it for them, but the wise,
Yeah.
they act without attachment, but for the world's welfare. Does that mean they should just, check out, go live in a cave? Or is it more engaged than that?
Yeah, great question. And the Gita is very clear. No, the wise don't just retreat. That's not the path here. Instead, they're meant to serve the world. Quietly, steadily, through their detached actions. Shloka 3.25 says it beautifully. As the ignorant work with attachment, so should the wise act, but without attachment for the welfare of the world. So they don't abandon action, they purify it. They become these living examples of how to be in the world but not bound by it, like a master musician perfecting their craft, not for applause, but for the music itself, for the integrity of it. They're fully engaged but free.
Okay, so we've looked at how to act selflessly as an example. What about the things inside us that can mess it all up? Even if we start with good intentions. Krishna doesn't just give us the how-to, he points to the real battleground, doesn't he? Inside us. He names the enemy.
He absolutely does. He identifies the root cause of so much trouble, kama, desire, or maybe intense craving is a better word. And he lays out this really dangerous chain reaction. Shloka 3.37 warns, "It is desire, born of passion, that turns into anger, the great devourer, the great sinner. Know this to be your enemy." If you trace it back, it often goes like this. Desire pops up, maybe from passion, wanting something intensely. Then, if you don't get it, what happens? Anger. Frustration. Anger then clouds your judgment, leads to confusion. And from confusion, well, that's where destruction can happen. Ruined relationships, lost peace of mind, you name it. It's this chain, and Krishna says, look, the starting point, the real enemy you need to watch, it's that uncontrolled desire. Not basic needs, but that grasping, insatiable wanting.
Wow. Okay, so pulling this all together for us listening today, this whole deep dive into Karma Yoga, just from chapter 3, it offers, well, a really powerful way to approach life. It's about discipline, yes, but also acting without that ego getting in the way, dedicating our actions, big or small, to something, well, bigger than just ourselves. The message seems to be, don't run from your duties, your actions. Purify them. Elevate them with devotion. And these ancient ideas, they really give you a different lens for looking at modern life, don't they? Think about your day, your work, your family stuff, how you interact with people. How could these principles, selfless action, detachment from the outcome, working for the good of the whole, how might they actually apply in your life?
It's definitely challenging, but also potentially really freeing. Can you actually work without constantly needing a specific result, without being totally attached to the outcome? What might that even look like? Maybe just for one thing you do today. It's something to chew on, definitely.
For sure. Something to think about. And speaking of thinking, next time we're shifting gears a bit. We'll dive into Awakening Yoga, the yoga of wisdom. We'll explore how knowledge isn't just book learning, but something much deeper that transforms the spiritual journey and maybe leads to even more inner freedom. So hope you'll join us for that.